Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Mates TV. So Darwin Nunez has gone to Al-Hilal. He joins Luis Diaz out of the door in filling Liverpool's coffers full of perhaps enough money to have another punt at Alexander Isak. That rumour rumbles on, of course, but we've seen Liverpool buy loads. We're seeing Liverpool sell loads. There are about 3 weeks left in this transfer window. We're just over a week away from the kickoff of the brand new season and Liverpool's defence of that Premier League title. Are they ready? And what really are their remaining transfer priorities? Because, look, I watch pre-season games. I'm sure you've watched the pre-season games as well. I've watched Trey and Yoni and Gravenberch and Robertson and Tsimikas and Stevenson and Wataru Endo all get a go at centre-half. Perhaps centre-back is one of those priorities. Perhaps there's more throughout the squad in general. So what we're going to do here is look at the business done so far, have a little chat around the squad depth from obviously goalkeeper through to centre forward as well. Perhaps a little mention for some of the youth projects and prospects that have thrown themselves into the mixer throughout pre-season and see what we kind of come out with. Some of this is really obvious, but maybe it warrants a little bit more in-depth discussion. That's what we're going to do. Please feel free to interact with me in the comment section underneath. And before I dive into it, I just want to mention that I've got a brand new Substack, Mate Publishing, which is going to be the wraparound for all of the content that I'm doing on here, but also a place for me to kind of challenge myself and test myself in writing. So obviously you will have known, some of you will have known, I say obviously, maybe you've no idea who I am and this is the first video. I've published a handful of Liverpool books in the past. Last year I published my dad's fiction book. I worked on him to get that finished. I have ambition to do more fiction-based stuff as well, but I just enjoy the Liverpool writing, so I've been doing a little bit more of that over on Substack on Mate Publishing. Most of the stuff on there, in fact all of the stuff on there, is completely free to check out if you want to go and do that. There is a paid offering. That content is to follow in the coming weeks and months, of course, but for now it is all free. So if you want to go over there, fill your boots, get some hopefully fun and interesting Liverpool writing, you can do that if you want to support the channel and the writing and obviously help to get new books published and improve the content here on this channel. Then yeah, you can subscribe, but please don't feel like you need to put yourself out for that. I'll be fine regardless, but yeah, if you want to support it, you can do. It is an option. So yeah, the link will be in the description underneath. It is Mate Publishing. It is the future of what I'm doing. So yeah, go over there. Feedback is always appreciated. So here's what Liverpool have done so far. So what I've done is I've actually made, the notebook is back, baby. I made a list of the outs, and then what I've kind of done is put them alongside the ins. I also did a little bit of a squad depth chart, which I think can be misleading at times, but I'll talk on to that. Maybe I'll do that after I've done this. So just going through it in positional order rather than necessarily timeline order. We've seen Kevin Kelleher go out in the goalkeeping department. On the flip side of that, we've seen Georgi Mamardashvili come in. We've also seen, the likes of Woodman and Pecci as well. So that's, yeah, feels like we've kind of gone like for like and actually a little bit of a step beyond that. Trent Alexander-Arnold obviously left on a free transfer / for £8 to £10 million to Real Madrid. Cool. We seem to get over that very, very quickly. Jeremy Frimpong was the natural replacement, one in, one out in that regard. So cool. I've been very impressed by what I've seen from Frimpong so far. Whether we end up in a kind of net different way, have a lot of the similar sort of issues of not being watertight from the right back area, it remains to be seen. But he is so refreshingly different at right back. I've really, been so excited to see him on the ball. A couple of times where the situation that Trent would pass his way out of, that he dribbles his way out of, which is just cool, isn't it? Really, really cool. So there's that. Jarell Quansah, gone. Good money, very, very good money for that. But right now, no centre halves have come in on the other side of things, so that remains a little bit of a glaring hole. Luis Diaz has gone to Bayern Munich, of course. Have we signed a replacement for him? Maybe we have. A lot of this is based on understanding so far of what the players we've brought in. Can you make a case that the step up of Rio and Gamoa could cover a bit of that? Theoretically, he's played there and he's done really well. He's certainly scored the goals and got the assists that you would have expected from Diaz in pre-season, but he hasn't really been tested at the highest level, and he is 16 years old. So we'll put Rio in brackets there, I reckon. Darwin Nunez now, of course, gone to Al-Hilal. there's a strong case to be made that Hugo Ekitike was his replacement in advance of selling him. So kind of covered in that regard. Now, I'm going to throw Harvey Elliott into the mix here. Now, there's a chance that Harvey Elliott, a small chance he ends up staying at Liverpool, of course, but at time of recording, Liverpool are speaking to RB Leipzig. I think based on Elliott's reaction from the Athletic game, he's probably on his way. I'm not overly happy about that. I think he's a great player, and I think Liverpool are a better squad for owning Harvey Elliott, but I can appreciate his situation. I think he could be a great footballer for another football team, and who knows, may have a future at Liverpool, you know, in a future timeline or whatever. But for the sake of this kind of conversation, Elliott is a very 10-ish footballer. Florian Wirtz has come in, so you know, maybe Elliott in the fullness of time in this transfer window. Maybe we'll revisit this in September. You could argue that Wirtz is like the Elliott replacement / upgrade. So yeah, reasonably happy with that. And again, in the left back situation, right now Liverpool own 3 left backs. We are very well stocked in the left back department, having signed Milos Kerkez, but we still own Robertson and Tsimikas. Now, I would imagine one of those two will move on before the end of the window. I've said this on this channel before and on Redmen before, of course, that if it was up to me, I would probably sell Tsimikas and keep Robertson because of everything else Robbo brings to the squad as well, and as well as the pitch, as well as being the better left back. He's also, you know, he's captain material, isn't he? So yeah, there's that. So effectively, we've already bought in. We should have 2 left backs, so we've kind of done that business already. Tyler Morton's just moved on to Lyon. Again, you could make the case that Trainee Yoni can step up and do a few more minutes in there, but realistically, he was so far down the pecking order anyway that did we really need to buy a direct replacement for him? Probably not, but you know, it scans reasonably well for me so far. The other one that obviously therefore stands out, Diogo Jota. Look, you know, no one was expecting for what happened to him to happen. Liverpool have dealt with it absolutely wonderfully. I think the way they've conducted themselves has been a genuine credit to the football club in the aftermath of a genuine tragedy, human and footballing tragedy. But, you know, to kind of step away, and again, for the purposes of this discussion, look on it in cold light of day of very spreadsheety of there's a footballer that Liverpool don't have anymore, then you know, if Ekitike is being seen in this instance as the Nunez replacement, then there is no direct Jota replacement in there thus far. So yeah, that is the sort of makeup of the ins and outs in my head, loosely speaking, so far. Let's have a little look at the depth chart and where that leaves us. So I'll do the depth chart. I will caveat this with, we always do depth charts like every single summer, and they always make people's heads fall off. It shouldn't this summer because we have such an abundance of footballers still. However, it does rankle people, but it does get their backs, because what you will inevitably find is there are some footballers who will exist in the depth chart for several positions. And inevitably that leads to the conversation of what if everyone gets injured, they can't play in 2 places at once? To which I always reply, have you ever seen a Manchester City depth chart, particularly not counting last season, the seasons when they were really, really good, and you found that Phil Foden was basically between first and second on the depth chart for about 4 positions in their side. Same for Bernardo Silva, often the same for Kevin De Bruyne as well. So yeah, to be taken with a pinch of salt. If the worst happens, the worst happens, and Liverpool have to deal with it, but you've got to put a degree of trust in that the manager and the players themselves can stay reasonably fit across the board. No club can handle 11 injuries. I don't care what your depth chart looks like. And they're where Liverpool have come undone in the past, but always under exceptional circumstances in terms of injuries. Right, caveats, long caveats out the way. Yeah, let me go through it. So in terms of the goalkeeping department, obviously Alisson Becker remains number 1. Mamardashvili comes in as his understudy, replacing Kevin Kelleher. And then we've got, between Woodman and Paichi, I think we've got a really perfect blend of ages for a goalkeeping department there, where Paichi can just come in and be, in and around things, to be perfectly honest, and he will benefit from under 21s football. And Woodman will be, often what we have is 3 goalkeepers at the match. You've got the one who's playing, the one who's on the bench, and a third one who's part of like warming up and training the goalkeeper. Feels like we're pretty well stocked there, to be perfectly honest. Right back, Connor Bradley, Frimpong. Who's in the number 1 slot? I don't know. I think it would have been Bradley, but the timing of his injury, missing the end of pre-season, will be interesting to see whether he's available for the Community Shield and therefore available beyond that for the first game of the season against Bournemouth. If he's injured, Frimpong will start, but whatever. We've got 2 very, very good right backs there. There is a slight question mark over Bradley's injury record, which I think a lot of people were hoping this will be the season when he starts to put that to bed as he comes out of his sort of growing pains era, but you might see that kind of drip into the start of the season and beyond, because he is 21 going 22. Yeah, it should start to settle down from here, hopefully, touch wood, but we'll have to see on that. So there is perhaps a little question mark of who is your 3rd choice right back. In previous seasons, it would be Joe Gomez, so you'd be maybe writing Gomez in there. But as we'll come on to, Gomez has got his own injury issues that have persisted all the way back to the end of 2024. So, yeah, he's a conversation for the centre-back department, and he might actually be a bit of a conversation for the right-back department as well. But broadly speaking, on its best day, I think we're brilliantly stocked at right-back. Centre-halves, yeah. Okay, here's where our first big red flag is. Ibu Konate, Virgil van Dijk, first choice, and I think clearly first choice, and I can't see that there's a centre-back on the market right now, and certainly none that we've been linked with, who I think would be bought and come in and break that up as a first choice. Potentially someone like Mark Guehi could, in time, and actually might be seen as a Konate replacement if Ibu doesn't sign a new contract and leaves at the end of the season. But yeah, beneath them is where the issue lies. Gomez has gone from 4th choice centre-half. With Quansah being moved on, Gomez naturally moves up to 3rd in the pecking order, but he's not fit and he hasn't had a pre-season. And for someone who has persistent injury issues, I always look at it as a huge red flag of missing pre-season, because nobody who has injury issues who then misses pre-season tends to get less injuries the season that follows. There will be exception to that, and it's not based on empirical data on my perspective, but that I believe that to be the case based on lived experience of it, and watching that happen time and time again. Our other, therefore, covering centre half is Wataru Endo, who we know naturally is a defensive midfielder. Probably not, isn't a natural fit for what we do in his natural position. He's been used as a break glass solution, and he's been used as a, last 5 minutes, 10 minutes, see how to give a football. I'm fabulous at doing that. We've seen a little bit more of him at centre half. I'm not against the idea of him being in that mix. But if I think right here and now, if our 4 centre half options are Konate, Van Dijk, Gomez and Endo, when last season it was Konate, Van Dijk, Quansah and Gomez, I think that's weaker. I think that department is weaker as a result, and therefore the biggest for me, there we go, right off the bat, number 1, biggest transfer priority for Liverpool is get a senior centre half in. Has to be, absolutely has to be. There is, of course, while we're having the conversation, a little world where, given how many players we've seen there, I think we will see more of Gravenberch there this season, but not on a week in, week out kind of thing. I think there will be games potentially at Anfield more than others, with a couple of exceptions away from home, where we're going to have so much of the ball and the mission will be to break down our opponents. You can play Gravenberch at centre half and you can get another good midfielder. All of a sudden you've got a team that's got Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai and Wirtz in there at the same time, as well as a traditional front 3 in addition to it, and the 2 flying fullbacks. So you can cover a certain amount of minutes with a midfielder in there. I just don't feel, for the sense of my personal sense of comfort. Whether Slot gives a shit or not is irrelevant to that, of course. But I would think that would be a strong consideration. Left back, we've mentioned it. Right now, we're overstocked at left back. Two stock. We probably do need to let one go. It is interesting, though, that we've seen Robertson and Tsimikas used at centre half. Are they being considered as a sort of break glass solution if we can't get another centre half? Because we might have needed one anyway. We might need two, given Gomez's situation. And you might then see one of them moved on in January. It remains to be seen. Okay, midfield, laughing. Absolutely laughing. Obviously, we've lost Morton, and I would expect Elliott to go. Even with that, if we're shifting the system slightly, so it's more of a two holding midfielder type situation with a 10 that would be Florian Wirtz. Szoboszlai seems to be moving back into that. So you've then got McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai and Jones 4-for-2 positions there, with Trey Nyoni pushed into the mix in that as well. And potentially, obviously, Wataru Endo can come in and do a job if needs be, which puts it at 6-for-2. Moving ahead to the 10 of that, Florian Wirtz would be the 10 with Szoboszlai as the understudy. So what you're therefore left with is 7 footballers for 3 positions, but obviously not, because Endo's not going to play the 10 as an example. Whereas I actually think most of the other ones kind of could. So yeah, I think we're very well stocked in midfield. I'm very, very pleased with how good Liverpool's quality is in there, and Wirtz has only added to that. Our critique last season was, I think he overused the lads that he had. Well, you know, Endo and Elliott could have played more minutes. They were fit and available for large chunks of the season. Was it because of a stylistic fit? Well, in that instance, Florian Wirtz has come in, the system will be built around him, so he will take more minutes, and that should ease the burden naturally from the other lads as a result. The attack. Now, obviously, this is where the major investment has come, or it looks like it's planned to come. Florian Wirtz is very much an option. I have not included him in my sort of mental depth chart up front here, but he could very much be an option for the left-hand side. He can do the false 9, and I'm sure, therefore, he could do a bit on the right-hand side. I can't know that just yet. So, broadly speaking, Liverpool's first choice attack right now is Mohamed Salah, Hugo Ekitike, and Cody Gakpo, which, great. I think stylistically, Ekitike is an upgrade on Nunez. Will he be an upgrade on goals from last season? Probably, almost certainly. I would expect them to outperform Darwin Nunez's numbers from last year. And I think the fact that he just looks like a better on-the-ball footballer should help everything around that in a general sense as well. Gakpo's interesting because I think there was a piece of paper between him and Diaz. I preferred Diaz because I preferred his style of play. I enjoyed watching him more, but Gakpo looks up for it, he looks ready. He's massive as well, which I think really adds to what we're doing there. So yeah, I think Gakpo's good. I think that's an excellent attack. I don't think in terms of a first choice front three, I think we have improved on, let's say if it was Salah, Darwin, Diaz, or Salah, Darwin, Gakpo, I think Ekitike instead of Nunez, and even instead of Jota potentially, I think that's an improvement. Is it an improvement on the Salah, Diaz, Gakpo front line? That's what I'm less sure. But if nothing else, if we only remain at par with that, then that's fine, because Liverpool had a brilliant attacking season last year. We were the top goal scorers in the Premier League. That bodes well. It's underneath that where the issue lies. So right now, those are the main front three, and the understudies are Doak, Chiesa and Ngamoa. So you're looking at 19, 20-year-old Ben Doak, who has had injury issues and hasn't really had an opportunity at Liverpool as a result. Performed well for Middlesbrough in the Championship, but then picked up an injury again. Federico Chiesa, who I adore and I really want to come good at Liverpool, is there, and I would be made up to have him continue to be an option for Liverpool next season. Fine. And Rio and Ngamoa, I think the hype is real, but he's 16. If he's Diaz's replacement, he has to be the generational talent that he's promising to be. That is a huge ask to ask him to step up and fulfill those kind of minutes and moments. That is on paper, sensibly speaking, a bit of a weakening, and maybe a significant weakening on what we do. Of course, if he continues that rise and he is just it happens every now and again. You just get a 16 to 17-year-old who is just ready here and now. Barca seem to get them every year. Maybe we've got one. And if that's the case, all is laughing on that left-hand side. But just being prudent and maybe a tad conservative on this, yeah, I think we can all agree that's not, that is a technical and, you know, probably literal downgrade at the moment. And where it comes into this, like the pecking order thing, a bit like the Gomez situation, Federico Chiesa, if he has had a season to bed in and he's fitter and stronger and healthier, which we haven't seen really as yet because he had an injury in pre-season, he's an Italian international. When he played, he was really good for us. He might be ready to step up the pecking order, but I can't say that with absolute certainty. And right now, of those 6, Chiesa has gone from 6th choice to 4th choice because we've sold lads, not that like he's fought his way into that, you know, to my understanding anyway. So yeah, right now that is a significant weakening in terms of Liverpool's overall depth of quality in the forward areas, though not necessarily in the first 11. And I think across the board, it's worth saying Liverpool's first 11 is as good as, and probably, I think, if your starting 11 is Bradley Canati, or Alisson, Bradley Canati, Van Dijk, Kerkez, McAllister, Gravenberch, Wirtz, Salah, Ekitike, Gakpo, I think that's a better 11 than what we were putting out last season, just because of literally the introduction of Florian Wirtz, as that could be a significant upgrade, and Ekitike potentially from Darwin, Jota and Diaz. But yeah, it's the squad depth. We've got a lot of volume, but maybe an overall weakening of the quality so far. Now, Alexander Isak would 100% improve that. And it does add a little bit of an X factor of, does that then mean Ekitike can do a little bit of 10 and a little bit from the left-hand side as well? So maybe you don't need, I think on paper you need 2 for the forward line and 2 for defence. But Slot might feel we just need one more centre-half, and Isak might be enough, and then you can cover the minutes in depth from versatility. So like Szoboszlai can play in a number of positions, Chiesa can play in a number of positions, Ekitike can maybe do 1 or 2, Wirtz can play in a few, and then that allows you and Gamoa to hoover up a bunch of minutes as a really super promising young player. And we don't know the future of Doak. I imagine Doak will be moved on, which would again add pressure to the depth. With Salah going on AFCON duties over Christmas, I'd be tempted to keep him round till January and see if we need him or not. But yeah, for me, the huge priorities right now, and look, Isak is obvious. We've clearly put all of our eggs into getting this guy, and that will significantly improve what we're doing, because all of a sudden, Salah and then Isak and Gakpo, or Ekitike, and then of course you throw Wirtz into it, stunning. That's the best attacking lineup, I think, in world football if that happens. And that'll be great, and we'll celebrate that duly in good time. The centre-back thing, though, is, as mentioned earlier, number 1 priority. Liverpool very much need a centre-half, and that centre-half needs to be, they need to be better than Quansah. Because what was the point? What's the point of selling Jarell Quansah if you're not buying better? And I've just done Journo Insight on Redmen Plus with Paul Gorse from the Liverpool Echo, and he said at this point they just need to be as good as Quansah. And yeah, I agree. And that's the level of desperation that comes if you don't get this sorted, is that, you know, you might have to kind of, again, find par in those situations. I don't think we should be doing that, because if you're just finding par, like I say, what was the point? There's years to develop on Quansah. He can conceivably get loads and loads better. But Mark Guehi, as an example, is better in the here and now. That kind of thing makes sense. But beyond that, it will be interesting to see what Liverpool do. And yeah, I think we definitely need 1 more for the attack. If Gamoa is only going to be an under-21 footballer, and then a few minutes here and there in cup games, and if Doak is, you know, if they're lining up a transfer for him, which is being mooted, then I think we might need 2 more for the attack. Yeah. What do you think? What are Liverpool's top 3 transfer priorities between now and the closing of the window? Let me know in the comments section underneath. I'll expand a little bit on this. I'll do some writing on this over on the Substack as well. So please do come over to Major Publishing. Again, link in the description. And at the end of the video, you can click the little icon there to take you through. That'll be much and greatly appreciated on that one. But I think we're doing really well. I think we obviously, and Liverpool are drawing all the headlines, you know, again, Adidas deal, boss signings coming in. I think there's more to come. I don't think that Richard Big Moves Hughes is going to drop the ball at this stage of proceedings, but I do have that lingering anxiety. I'm sure you do too, because we've been burned in the past, so fingers crossed they're on it. But yeah, suggestions as well, by the way, outside of Guehi and Isak. Let me know some names in the comment section underneath. And anyway, yes, I'm going to the Community Shield. I will see many of you there. Hopefully come and say hello if you do see me in and around Wembley Stadium. That's always an absolute pleasure for me. Drop a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, check Mage Publishing out, and yeah, up Big Moves Hughes. Crack on, mate, get us a centre half. Nice one.